Hi, my name is Irma Torres, and this is my reflection upon Dr. Gardini's lecture yesterday regarding international relations and COVID-19. There were many topics that Dr. Gardini covered. However, to put it simply, the concept of societal relations is complex. Politicians throughout this pandemic have made decisions that have severely impacted the citizens that they govern. And ultimately, as a citizen, as a student, and as a public health professional, I must accept that there is always going to be a compromise when making policies. However, collaborating with numerous sectors of society, policymakers, scientists, and other experts in various areas should be a norm when creating diplomacy. As a student around this time last year, there was a lot of confusion, fear, and missing information regarding COVID-19. Last year, I transferred to Cal Poly and I actually lived on campus. So getting bombarded by emails during the last 2 weeks of the quarter was extremely stressful. And when I moved back home, I was extremely nervous and paranoid because I personally live with people who are at high risk for COVID-19. And in addition, from the moment they woke up to the moment they went to sleep, all they had on was the news, and everything that the news covered was strictly COVID-19. So for months, I would only leave my house to walk my dog or to go get essentials like going grocery shopping for the family. As someone in public health, I would like to think that everyone has been continuously being courteous of others by not constantly engaging in high-risk activities, continuously getting COVID tested, and adhering to sheltering in place rules. However, it's clear that that hasn't been the case. And reflecting on America as a whole, we generally have an individualistic and nationalistic outlook. The states were not and still aren't in solidarity when it comes to address the pandemic. It is clear when you see various different states, such as Nevada compared to Arizona, compared to California, on how we are facing this pandemic. In my opinion, as a nation, we did not have a strong federal grasp on this. And Dr. Gardini made it a point that nationalism right now is not an option because there are severe negative outcomes that can come of it due to the unpredictability of the coronavirus. And I agree with that statement because due to how some of the states have been treating this pandemic, it has caused certain populations to suffer at COVID at higher rates. So some populations that have been affected by the way we've interacted throughout this pandemic is there are marginalized communities that face disproportionately higher rates of COVID-19. So as a person who originally lives in a highly agricultural Hispanic town, I could understand the difficulties that certain populations face. Dr. Gardini explained that ideally everyone would just stay home. However, that's not feasible for everyone because people have to continue working despite their chances of being exposed. In my hometown of Fillmore, there are a lot of people who are migrant workers and work in fields or work blue-collar jobs in factories who continued working throughout the pandemic. Many factories and production plant employers did not provide adequate PPE and had a huge lack of COVID testing, which resulted in numerous outbreaks. So furthermore, in his talk, he mentioned that we mustn't leave migrants out of protection because it is morally unacceptable and irresponsible because this population can also spread the COVID virus. He continued to highlight that we must focus on humans first and acknowledge the role of the public sector. But unfortunately, in the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, undocumented migrants were not entitled to primary care in crowded ERs. And as someone who's very passionate about migrant health, I think that this has been a population that's been severely marginalized throughout this population and especially during the first few months. In addition, it is important to note that certain ethnic groups such as African Americans, Latinos, and South Asians have higher rates of diabetes, hypertension, and cardiovascular disease, which puts them at a higher risk because they have underlying medical conditions. So the way COVID-19 is acting as a catalyst, and I think it will make big impacts upon policy, security, and create change in the healthcare system. So Dr. Gardini said, if he were a policymaker, he would consult with party leaders, then invite experts for help. This resonated with me because I truly thought when I first heard about the COVID-19 vaccine that our administration would follow this approach. Although I have various criticisms about the way this pandemic has been handled in the United States, I think the most profound impact was when he mentioned that the initial mismanagement of the United States, especially when he compared it to several countries in Europe, which reacted quickly and in a timely manner. I think that this mismanagement will create protocols that will be put in place, and there will be an increase in funding to the World Health Organization, as well as to public health and research as a whole. In addition to policy, we need to have security for people. Dr. Gardini said that the European Union approved the first aid package for the European population within just 3 weeks of the emergent lockdown. It was then reinforced with the CRI Plus package to help those who are facing unemployment. From the perspective of a citizen and a future public health professional, people will not be able to adhere to quarantine rules if they cannot afford to take time off or if they are facing financial stress. I just believe it is unrealistic. Therefore, we need to have the public sector roll out with federal funded programs to help people with basic needs and financial assistance. I think that the COVID-19 pandemic will create a change in policy, hopefully by modifying our current healthcare system to one that is more universal and affordable for citizens to use. Dr. Gardini stressed the importance of having an efficient health system is like having an army, the enemy being a disease. If we do not have an army set in place, we will not be able to withstand any, we will never be able to withstand the enemy, and we will face disastrous consequences as a result. And I believe that we are currently seeing that unfold with the way that we have dealt with this pandemic. So therefore, we should be guaranteeing quality, affordable healthcare, and we should make that a priority. People should not have to worry about not being able to afford medical treatment. And I think that we can bring in various sectors as well as educating the population upon how public health works and how this disease works in order to reduce misconceptions and to have people understand the severity of this pandemic. And these are my references. So I hope that all of my reflections and responses made sense and that they tied in well with Dr. Gardini. If you have any questions, feel free to respond to my discussion. Thank you.